Winter depression. It's a real thing. People's have a lot of mood experiences during the winter. Just, I think feeling more sensitive, more down, lower energy, lower motivation, wanting to sleep more. So I wanted to talk to you about how to keep your mood up or just some of the tips that I've seen work clinically and some things that oftentimes I guess people just haven't tried or haven't really thought about. So my first tip is just to remember about transitioning to winter, and that takes a couple different kind of spheres that I initially think about with people. First of all, shifting your sleep. A lot of people just need more sleep during the winter, kind of a little hibernation, especially if you're super cold sensitive. And the winter experience for you is, I don't know, requires some recovery of a lot of warmth and kind of, I don't know, the snuggliness of bed. I don't know, I just say honor that. Another way of transitioning into winter that see people struggle with is just exercise. For example, you're a big runner and being out in the nature and in the sun is a big part of you staying well mentally. If you lose that during the winter, especially for folks who move from like a kind of warm climate to someplace that has winter, I've often just seen that loss of exercise and being outside. So gear up or do whatever you need to do to make sure that you keep your exercise up and you like transition to winter. Now, other things that have really been shown, light boxes. That's something that I posted a little bit about and talked a little bit about, but there is evidence that using a light box or the use of early morning light. Now, there are some studies showing actually noon light as well, but this can be very activating for people. Another way to do this is just get up early and watch the sunrise and really kind of try and take in a lot of light. The studies usually are 20 to 30 minutes of light using a 10,000 lux light. There are a couple of different models that people tend to recommend and use, but a light box is something that can be used in winter depression. Improving your nutrition. A lot of people during the winter months, as we feel cold and cranky and a little more depressed, we lean towards those comfort foods, a lot of empty carbohydrates, a lot of ways that we often comfort ourselves with sugary foods or foods just that are processed and aren't great for our mental health. And I think you can do a real easy, brain food swap or pivot, or what we call simple swap of focusing on the soups and stews. A great place to put in lots of greens and beans in your stews, but also just throughout your diet. Winter and fall, I think, are just great for those. So lots of soups and stews, great place to get your leafy greens and your rainbows. I love doing little bites. I find during the winter, I kind of want little, bites of comfort. So I've really been loving these little salmon burgers, wild salmon burgers, just a can of wild salmon with, we do them in Eat to Beat Depression and Anxiety a couple different ways. One of them is just I take some gluten-free crackers and make like some breadcrumbs, and so that, an egg, the salmon, and then put in a bunch of stuff. I don't know, ginger and green onions and garlic and a little soy sauce. That's what's in that recipe. But you can make these little kind of, I don't know, they're like little bites. So those little dipping sauce I find just be I don't know, very comforting thing. So that gets the seafood in there. So nutrition, I guess, is another way, of course, that I want you to think about transitioning into the winter months, and also then in terms of sourcing your food, of just go from lots of farmers markets and lots of fresh produce to maybe relying more on things like a can of beans or more frozen produce. So a lot of people have been kind of relying on those. I certainly have during the pandemic a lot more, but certainly in the winter, things just change in terms of your produce supply for a lot of folks. So that's another winter tip. Now, in terms of another couple of things that I like to remind folks about, it is some of the, I guess, natural antidepressants out there to think about in terms of, one, if you begin to have problems sleeping during the winter, and that's something I've been doing this winter. I have one of these Aura rings. I've been monitoring my sleep a lot more. I don't have a super normal sleep pattern, so as I was about to recommend, I guess maybe we should do sleep supplements and things like that for another video. But I just wanted to go over, I guess, a couple of ways to think about keeping your mood good during the winter. There are lots of other ways to do this, obviously, to keep up your socializing or communication. And by socializing, just that notion of sharing and being with other people, obviously complicated now during the pandemic, but something that you really need to attend to. It's easy to get cold, down, isolated, not feeling good in the winter, especially this winter. And so I just wanted to make this video and just remind you of a few things to try if you haven't tried, or to talk about with your healthcare provider if you are in some sort of treatment, if you're thinking about about a light box, or if you're thinking about, some of the medicines that really have been shown to help a lot of people in terms of winter depression, like antidepressants or St. John's wort or things like magnesium. I always think it's good to work with a care provider of some type if you're doing interventions like that. But mostly I want you to hear my encouragement. Take good care of your mental health this winter.